All right, everyone, now it's time to talk about Kamala Harris because she still hasn't actually visited the U.S. border despite being explicitly tasked by Joe Biden, by our asterisk administration, commander-in-chief. She was explicitly tasked with being the one to oversee the border response because as soon as Biden took office, literally took, the border crisis spiraled out of control. There's always been a problem with illegal immigration on the southern border, but when Trump was the president, because of the optics of Trump and because of what he said and how he said it, like basically, you try to come here, we're going to deport you, it's, illegal immigration's not welcome, fuck off, people were more hesitant to cross the border because they got the sense that he meant business. Nobody gets that sense from Joe Biden. Why do you think the Republicans right now are just rolling their eyes at him? Because they know that he's bullshit. He doesn't mean he does the old former tough guy shtick very well. Like he basically pretends it's still the greaser era, and so he'll come out and challenge people to push-up contest or something. But really, what it is, it becomes a meme. He thinks that he sounds tough or convincing. Everyone else is fucking laughing at him. And by the way, Biden has no solid fans. He has Dem partisans lined up behind him because he happens to be a Democrat. He has plenty of people who just hated Trump pathologically. That era is beginning to wane. What's happening is people are starting to forget about whatever they hated about Trump because it's sort of like the boy who cried wolf or something at some point because the legacy media still talks about Trump as though he was president. They can't stop talking about him because Biden's so boring. Meanwhile, he's got this pathetic HR lady, the bracelet jingler in chief, Kamala Harris. Supposedly, she's, meant to manage the border crisis or the response to the border crisis. What response has been given? She hasn't even visited it. She's never been inside one of these facilities. Ted Cruz went. They tried to block him from taking shots there with his camera, or his phone rather. These days they're the same thing, but they failed, and then we got the Project Veritas release with regards to the conditions actually and the size, the massive expansion of the Donna facility. It hits kind of close to home because I actually lived in Donna, probably within walking distance of where the facility is. I don't think it existed back when I was there. That was the end of the 2000s, but I've literally been in the Rio Grande Valley from South Padre over to McAllen. By the way, really nice place. Hospitable people, nice climate, if you don't mind 110 degree days with no breeze. But it is a dry heat most of the time, so other than hailstorms, it's pretty nice. Good food. That's definitely go and get a burger at South Padre Island. I can't remember the name of the place that I went to. They gave me a margarita that must have had 3 or 4 shots of liquor in it because my head was spinning. I couldn't drive back. Had to go to the store and was drunk enough to actually find it fun. Kamala Harris is psycho, though, and I think I know why. I think I know why she's not going to the border. The problem is, let's say that you're the VP. Cameras tend to follow you around. You're the vice president. Do you really want to be on camera? CNN, MSNBC, and shit will be there. They'll be recording everything that you do. And then you get asked questions about the border crisis because it's a big crisis. In fact, at the moment, other than the stagflation, probably the biggest crisis that we face as a nation, the United States. Now imagine that you're Kamala. Every time that something bad happens, when you're asked about immigrant children being fed raw meat in immigration facilities, if you're asked about war or something, you let out a nervous but psycho-sounding laugh, and you don't know how to respond. You either don't respond or you respond poorly. You work yourself in linguistic circles, and any sane, reasonable person of at least reasonably average intelligence knows you're bullshitting. Do you really want to go to the border? Because you're going to get asked those questions. Because it's going to look bad. The mere fact that she's waited so long will make it remarkable when she actually finally has to visit the border. That's going to be a dark day for the Biden administration. That's just the way that it is. And Joe Biden, by proxy, I don't know, I can't envision, by the way, in his mind, why he put her in charge of the response. I think that you could have had so many other... Buttigieg would have been a better choice. It would have been better to have your transport secretary visit the border and say, well, at least he's young and reasonably well-spoken. He's not a complete turd. He doesn't come off as psychopathic. is what I'm trying to say. Kamala Harris does. Even when she's not meaning to be malevolent or anything, she comes off as the snarky HR woman that stabs her friends in the back in order to obtain some sort of gain from it. That's basically what she reminds people of. She reminds me a lot of Hillary Clinton. The problem is Hillary Clinton's likability factor was lacking. The problem is, here's why female politicians have a problem. And this might be a little bit unpopular to say, but this is the truth. The kind of women who tend to enter into politics are going to be that HR toe-tapping type, by and large. Not always. You'll get a Tulsi Gabbard, you'll get like a Giffords, you'll get someone like Marianne Williamson, who literally tried to spar with me about spirituality on Twitter. Big mistake, by the way. But she's not unlikable. She's bizarre, has weird beliefs about crystal healing and orgone, I'm sure, but she's not unlikable. She's the sort of person who would offer you green tea and a free Reiki reading. Kamala Harris is the sort of person where if you were in her way of getting a promotion, you might slip and fall and be out of work for a few months and no longer be in her way. In all honesty, she's nuts, or at least she seems that way. But keep in mind, perception over reality. I've peddled that line for years. The perception of the public of Kamala Harris might be different from how Kamala Harris actually is. I don't know that she's literally a psychopath. I think that it might just be nervous laughter. She's been asked a question that's tough about a topic that's kind of sad, which is literally kids in Obama cages that are being expanded by Joe Biden, and now they're getting shittier food than the troops were in the Capitol in the first weeks when they were getting moldy shit and stale MREs. She might just have a poor reaction to such questions, but the perception, at least in my mind, this is certainly how I perceive her, is as a potential sociopath. As someone who probably shouldn't be trusted to be VP, if I were Joe Biden, legit, and this is not a joke, this is not hyperbole when I say it, and I don't think it's hyperbole when others semi-jokingly state, the reason why she's the first to enter the room is he doesn't want her behind him. He doesn't want her at his 6. Literally. When Psaki had to respond to that, well, why does Kamala come in first? Why is she? Well, she's got such an important role as the female vice president. She's the first in and the first out. It's because Biden doesn't want her behind him. He's probably right to, by the way, although Biden doesn't make his own decisions, his wife does. Basically, he's the next, what was that president, that fucker, the Wilson, I believe. He had a stroke in office the last year he was president. His wife probably was the one signing the legislation, or vetoing it. By the way, that technically nullifies that legislation. Of course, the president was not mentally capable of holding office at the time, but he wasn't removed. It was a catch-22 situation. That's basically what you got. I think that Joe Biden's not in charge. I think his wife manages his domestic affairs and the cabal behind him manages everything else. I think Kamala Harris is a cutthroat, although I'm not sure that she's actually a psycho, but she's definitely self-aggrandizing and egotistical, and she doesn't want to see the kids in cages. How is she going to react? If she sees these kids in cages and has the cameras rolling, is she going to laugh? Oh, ha, 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 look at those funny space blankets. They look like little burritos. Yeah, I wouldn't put it past her to actually have that response. And see, that's the problem. The optics of the Biden administration are mind-bogglingly bad. I love it when MSNBC just had another push poll, by the way. Oh, Joe Biden has 60% approval. No, he doesn't. It's probably structurally impossible to hit 60% approval, regardless of how good you do. If Trump were in there, there's no possibility he could cure cancer and he wouldn't hit 60% approval. Or at least not for very long. The idea that Joe Biden is widely approved of is literal horseshit. That's about all. Peace out.